Hello, everybody. This is B.Jr. from B.Jr.'s bedroom, not the movie cave. Yeah, you're getting to see a lazy B.Jr. Well, I hit the red box on the way out of the grocery store this evening, and I picked up It Follows. Yeah, that's right. It Follows. A little independent horror movie. I think it was picked up by Dimension Films or Anchor Bay, one of those. And it's recently made its home video debut, digital format and or Blu-ray, DVD. I popped this movie in. I tried to stay away from the hype of this movie and not really, didn't even watch the trailer or anything. I just kind of saw a couple reviews and heard a couple reviews and podcasts and whatnot, but I just wanted to give it a fair viewing whenever I watch this, just an untampered viewing, if you will. I gotta say I was pleasantly surprised. Now, let me preface all this by saying that this movie's not going to change the face of horror or anything like that. But, to its defense, nor is it a faux throwback movie. Even though, overall, this movie could very much pass for an 80s film. There is little to no cell phone or laptop usage in this whole entire movie. No iPads, none of that. There is one character that has a little e-reader that you flips out every once in a while and reads, but it's not in your face or anything of that nature. Even the television sets and the set dressing of the film in general, and the clothing that the main characters wear in the film, harkens back to simplicity of 80s horror film. This is not a throwback movie, and nor did they even. It's kind of they did it right. They just kind of had a minimal budget, obviously, but they used that to its advantage. All the locations, I believe this is shot somewhere in or around Detroit, Michigan, from what I've heard. I could be wrong, could be shot somewhere totally different, so don't hold me to that. I've only watched this film one time. But I liked it so much, I had to stop and just throw the phone down here on the nightstand and talk about it. It's rare that a horror film comes along and I just want to stop and talk about it. This one I felt like, albeit it's not going to be a classic right away or anything, but it's a movie that was done right. And the reason why I say that is because in terms of set dressing, everything, it all looks realistic because it is real. They used real places, real streets. There's a touch of CGI here and there, but it's very, very minimal, like 2% of the 100%. I'm talking like really minimal. In terms of it that follows the characters and things of that nature, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't seen it before, but I'm sure by now you've probably heard enough about the movie if you're in or around the horror movie community. So I am going to drop some kind of spoilers in this, so if you want spoiler less, you need to go watch the movie and then come back. There's your spoiler hype there. I just want to put that out there. But in terms of story, it's kind of like a ghost story in a way, with a touch of Cronenberg-esque kind of story setup and some tone, if you will. Also, longtime composer Howard Shore of Cronenberg. There's some Howard Shore cues in the soundtrack. We're going to get to the soundtrack, and it's an instrumental soundtrack, but we're going to get to that in a moment. I'm going to save that. It's like a little character all to itself. In terms of story, though, it really just follows a band of about 4 to 5 teenagers to early 20s type folks that are kind of like live on the same street, kind of went to the same schools. Realistic characters. I mean, they interact with each other in a non-Hollywood way. This is very much a non-Hollywood product. I might need to say that as well. This is no glossy, press junket-laden, talking heads kind of fare. This is your regular, let's get together, get the best camera you can, and just make the best project you can. But let the story do the talking. That's what I really like about this film. The it and all that, and the way they did the film, it really lent itself to the minimal budget and atmosphere. What it really basically follows is the it is sort of like a ghost or a, kind of like the antagonist to the protagonist. It's the bad guy, the whatever you want it to be, that is after the heroine or the person that it's chasing. It's sort of like a sexually transmitted disease type thing. It's not really, it is a physical thing. The it starts following you once you have relations with whoever's been transmitted to prior. And then if you are killed by the it, basically it goes back to the person that you got it from, and it just kind of goes back down the line. So the only way to get rid of it is to pass it on to someone else by way of hanky panky, if you will. And once you do that, you have to ensure that that person knows the rules and goes ahead and passes it on to somebody else, so they'll be safe too, if you want to do so. But yeah, man, it was just it was a it was a good little gem of a watch. I mean, it was refreshing to see a little film that really went for it in terms of horror and everything else. It's not overly gory. It is R-rated in terms of because of subject matter and some kind of, there's a couple little shock scenes in the movie, but nothing really over the top. There's some minor nudity in the film, but they could have probably gotten away with PG-13 or something of that nature. But I kind of got the feeling after watching this film, they made the film that they wanted to make, and they said, to heck with. I kind of had the feeling like I could see them sitting there, the creators of the film, director or whatever, thinking probably, let's just make the film we want to make, let them slap whatever they want, and let it speak for itself. Because that's what this film really did. It spoke for itself, in my humble opinion. Set dressing, everything, I loved it. The televisions in their homes are old box-style TVs, things like that. They didn't slap a year on this film or a date or anything of that nature. But it just kind of in and of itself, it could have passed for an 80s film. I mean, if you'd never seen this film before, it doesn't have like a scratchy faux throwback grindhouse, what I'm talking about. It's not like one of these movies like House of the Devil or something like that, where they had to work hard to make it look like an 80s film. They just went and done a film in that style. I'll just say it that way. To piggyback on style, though, I guess I should say I picked up on subtle, and I mean very, very subtle. You have to be an uber horror fan to really probably pick this up. There's subtle homages done in the right way to John Carpenter's Halloween. Excuse the noise my dog got up. John Carpenter's Halloween. Nightmare on Elm Street on 2 occasions in the film. I picked up on 2 homages to Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, from the 80s. Also, subtle hints of Psycho in the movie. Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho. Not overtly on that one, but I picked up on a couple hints of that. I'm not going to tell you what they were. I'm going to let it speak for itself. So if you're watching the film, or if you're going to watch it in the near future, be on the lookout for those things. You might pick up on them right away. You might not. There's also some Argento-esque kind of scenes that weren't really in your face or anything, but you're kind of like, whoa, that's kind of Italian or something. What is that? I mean, maybe even Kubrick, not overtly, but this movie was really like a lot of kind of experimental ghost story type films in the 80s that kind of has been meshed with newer films now that are done right, that are far and few between. That was if that makes any sense whatsoever. That's kind of the way I felt when I come away from this film. I literally just turned off I just got done watching it probably about 10 minutes before I got into this review, so it's all still very, very fresh on my mind. Let's talk about the soundtrack to kind of sum it up. The soundtrack to the film is kind of like an instrumental synth score all to itself. I think the soundtrack is selling very well on Amazon right now, so if you want to get the soundtrack or at least listen to a few tracks, I'm sure somebody out there has uploaded on YouTube or something like that. But humbly speaking, I know a lot of people that have reviewed it so far have like said it's very John Carpenter-esque, and it is. I picked up a few cues in there, a good few cues, good handful of cues that were very John Carpenter. But to elaborate on that, some of the music in the film, as I said before, harkened back to a few cues of Howard Shore scores from David Cronenberg film. Also, the feel of the film too was kind of Cronenberg-esque in some scenes, in terms of how it's transmitted and stuff like that, body horror kind of stuff. His earlier work, but also I thought about two other artists for the soundtrack. Now you guys have been watching my channel. You know I've been getting heavy into soundtracks and music again here lately. I picked up on Vangelis and Tangerine Dream. Both were prominent in the '80s with like the Blade Runner score. Vangelis did Blade Runner. They did, or he did Chariots of Fire was another big one for him, for Vangelis. But also Tangerine Dream, you name it, they did like a ton of scores during the '80s. There was a lot of cues that I was sitting there thinking, dude, that really, I hate to even say it. I felt uber nerdy thinking it, but it sounded like some cues from Tangerine Dream scores, that showed up in movies like Thief, I think it was, and I think it was Thief, Legend, all these other fantasy, all these movies that they did during that time frame. But yeah, the soundtrack checks out. I was really impressed by the soundtrack. It's not over the top or anything. It's very subtle when it needs to be subtle, very melancholy, very, very melodramatic. But at the same time, when the horror kicks up, it's not like, not to discredit it, it's not like Insidious, where it's just like slapping you in the face, or movies like Drag Me to Hell where the sound is like picked up so high pitched you're just irritated by it. No, when the horror starts happening, it's a building score. It kind of builds like a Carpenter score. On one sound starts, another sound jumps on the bandwagon, then another one, and bam, it's all on you. That's kind of how the horror parts of the movie are scored. But yeah, very trippy, very trippy in some scenes. Some scenes you're kind of like, whoa, what was that? And you want to rewind it or whatever. I didn't rewind anything because this is the first time I saw it, but this is going to be one of those films you're probably going to pick up on things the more times you see it. That's kind of just my gut reaction to it, first time seeing it. So I think I've elaborated and blathered on enough. But if anything, get out there and try the milk before you buy the cow. I say It Follows was a good little rental viewing there. I'm probably going to look out for a copy of it soon when the prices come. When the prices come down to B.Jr. prices. We might have to pick this one up. Previously viewed. Rock on, guys. I'll catch you next time. Bye.